Okay, hello, I am back with an update. We are almost 100% done the body of the sweater. And again, if you haven't been following along, there's an entire playlist where I'm going through the entire knitting process, every sort of decision factor, everything I'm thinking about in the planning process, modifications throughout, and finishing to share the process and give people confidence in how they approach their knitting. So this is not a live knitting tutorial or anything, but it's more about the process of knitting. So as we can see on my back, where we had left off on my sweater, we were right about to split for the sleeves here and finish with the main body. I did, if you go back in the playlist and look at this section, I did end up adding an extra 1.5 inches by adding one more stripe of color. So I modified the pattern a bit there, and that was the first mod I had done, just because I really want to make sure that this hangs sort of at my bum or a little bit below, both, you know, in the front and the back, rather than having it maybe be a little bit too short. So I decided to add one more, it's about 1.5 inches from the pattern. Other than that, I've got my front panels and they have the decreasing side here. So this is going to be sort of the V-neck portion, will be this side and the other side. But what I wanted to go over right now, because again, I stop and just do a video with very low production value anytime there's something that I'm thinking about or changing or doing. So what I noticed, and this might seem really trivial to some of you, to the point where I have to even find where it was. I had just seen it and I decided I would stop and do a video. Here it is. So let's see if we can get it. Let me point with this needle here. Right here on this stitch. Oh, no, I've hit the camera. Low production value. Right here, there is a little split piece of yarn that I don't like. Now, most people would probably just skip over that. It's not that noticeable. But I feel like I've done a really good job of staying really consistent with my tension and my stitches. And now that I've noticed it, it's a quick and easy fix. But it's something that I think a lot of people, especially more beginners, get really scared to try to fix something like that. And like, I definitely don't want to rip back this much of the sweater. So I'm going to just live on this video do a ladder down and fix this one stitch and then stitch it right back up. And this is one of the beautiful things about knitting. I was a crocheter for a long time before I started knitting, and the ability to fix it is such a joy. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to knit my way over to that stitch, and I don't even know where that stitch is. Again, this is not a knitting tutorial, but for people who are curious, I am a continental knitter, which means that I hold my working yarn in my left hand, not my right hand. Often you'll see people who use their right hand and then sort of throw the yarn up and around. I don't, and I find a lot of crocheters or people who were originally crocheters tend to keep the yarn in their left hand and do continental knitting. The other thing that I do with my style of knitting is I do combination purling, which means when I purl, I actually do a yarn under instead of a yarn over, which twists the stitches. So right now I'm knitting, and I don't know if you can notice, but all my stitches are twisted. So I need to knit sort of through the back loop to get them back right on. The other thing, just while I'm quickly knitting on here and finding the right spot, is when I first learned to knit, I did not understand tensioning my yarn very well. And that's when the first pattern, or the first project I made for this pattern, which is right here, that you can go and look at in the intro, and it's linked as well in my Ravelry, my tension was insane, all over the place. Now the simple fix for it, for me, was just I wrap it around my pinky, and that helps me keep a really even tension. So I just need to find which exact stitch I am looking to get to. Okay. All right, so now I've knit up to the spot where I need to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do something called laddering down. I'll get everything out of the way. So I'm going to drop this stitch off, and do not fear, this is not nearly as scary as it may seem to people. I hope I got the right one. I'm going to double check. Remember, these stitches are all V's. And then I'm going to use, I have a crochet hook here. You can use a tapestry needle. You can use anything. And I am just going to ladder these stitches. This is called laddering down. At least that's what I call it. And I'm going to go right down to the stitch that I want to fix up, which is actually not even like wrong. It just split a little bit. So I'll show you one more time before I fix it. I'm trying to see if you can even see it. There's just a little split there. So I'm going to pull out to there. All right. And this is what's called a ladder. So in stockinette stitch especially, which is just knit on one side, purl on the other, or just knitting in the round, depending on what the construction is of your piece, you can do this and it's not going to fall apart, and it's going to seem like really nerve-wracking at the start, but it's really not. So I'm going to take my crochet hook, and I am going to, which you can use a crochet hook, you can use your knitting needles, you can use all sorts of things. And I'm basically going to use my crochet hook to just pull it up through. Let me see if I can get up nice and close here for you. Being careful not to twist the stitches. So, and I'm just grabbing them one at a time and pulling it through that loop. Just like that. And I'm going to do that all the way up, making sure I'm not twisting the stitch. And you can play around with this all you want. Now, this will not be as straightforward if you have increases or decreases or color work or other things going on, but when it's pretty standard stockinette fabric, this is pretty easy to do. And you might feel like it's going to leave a gap as you're doing it, but once you get up to the top, and especially once you block it at the end where you're finishing it, then you will not notice this. I promise you, you won't notice it. I didn't grab a matching size crochet hook or anything. It's best if you can. I just had one in my bag that I'm using. And then going right back up to where I was. Whoop. Okay, and then I'm going to put this stitch back on to my needles. And then I'm just going to do my little tensioning around my pinky so I can pull it nice and tight. And then I can just keep knitting across like normal. So that is fixing mistakes, laddering down. If you find something that you want to change or you want to fix, you can do it at any time. Obviously, the closer you are to it, the easier or quicker it is. But really, the difference in time that took from going this far to this far was really not that much. So that's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to just quickly chat about, just be a little bit harder now that I have it off my needles like this, or partially on my needles, is the one modification that I did mention in the last video. And I'm pulling back up my my original Douglas Cardi. Again, if you want to make this, go buy the pattern. I'm not giving away pattern details here, but I did mention that in this pattern, especially with my really loose tension, you can see there's the tension of these stitches. It's really loose. It's not great. It was one of my very first garments. So that's why I'm remaking it in the right yarn, with the right needles, the right gauge, the right tension, all that good stuff. Go back to the intro if you want to see more about that. But in this construction with this drop shoulder, I find this span of the drop shoulder to be really long, and it ends up coming down like to my elbow. So I decided to simply omit this section of the pattern here that adds this extra bit to the drop shoulder, and instead I'm just going to start my sleeve from here, just so that it starts the stripes going this way at this point, because I don't feel like I need this drop shoulder to be super droopy, because this pattern does have a lot of positive ease in it, which is sort of oversized, and it's meant to fit in a slightly oversized way. So I've got around, I think, 11 or 12 inches on my current one that I'm working on here. So you can see, and let's see if I can get a good view of this. I always end up rambling and these become really long videos. But this is gonna go like this once it's finished. And dun, 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 dun. So it'll be like this. And then instead of having, so there's the armhole there. So instead of having a little extra section come out with the stripes going horizontally like this, I'm gonna start the sleeve stripes going this way right from here. And that's just a decision based on how the one that I've already made fits on my body. And you can see it if you use Ravelry. You can see the links to both the new project in Ravelry and the old one, if you want to see what I mean about the drop shoulder. So this is just a design decision that I've made to modify the pattern based on the fact that I've already made it before. You may not know whether or not you're going to like that. But the nice thing about it being knit bottom up is that you can, if you do it a certain way and you don't like it, you can rip it back and then rip this part back and you can just adjust it. And it might feel like it takes a long time, but I think the beauty of making our own knit garments and crochet garments is really to make sure that they are exactly what we want. We have the say, we have the control over it. And so we can make modifications and we can decide we didn't like something and rip it out and start again. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about just while I'm on here is after I finish this body, before I do the sleeves, I'm going to do the neckline and button band, which is going to like come up here and go around the neck and then come down here. And it's going to be in this angst color, which is my main color. That's what my ribbing is in here. And I'm slightly worried about how much or how little angst I have left. I have less than one skein. You can see, where is it? It's right around here. So halfway through this stripe is where I had to start a new skein of angst, which you can tell from these loose ends here that I need to weave in. So I'm already partially into that. So my thought process is I'll do the button band because I need it to be in that color to match this. And then I'll see how much I have left, and I'll probably do some math around yarn chicken to make sure. If people don't know what yarn chicken is, it's when you're not sure you're gonna have enough yarn and you don't have any more of it, or you can't get more of it. I could get more of it probably if I want to, because Krista from the Frosted Stitch is absolutely amazing. So she might be able to get me more. But in the meantime, what I wanna do is make sure I at least have enough for the button band, do that part first. Because if I do run out, I have no problem having the sleeves not have this stripe color. I can just take it out and I think it would still be a cohesive look. Ideally, I can get the button band and the at least the edging, like the cuffs of the sleeve, to sort of match this. But if not, I don't think there's a problem there. So at the very least, I want to do this, and I'll probably do that in the next video. So you'll be able to see how I sort of determine if I'm going to have enough yarn to do what I want to do live along the way. I feel like it's not really a work in progress or a whip unless you feel like you're playing yarn chicken, because that's how I feel pretty early on all the time. I'm like, ooh, am I going to be able to squeak this out and have enough? Especially if I've done if I'm doing something with a hand spun yarn where I definitely do not have more, and it's a lot harder to make the same thing over and over again. But that's where we're at. This is how much yarn I have left of each color of the stripe colors, and not the main color, but for the sleeves. And I think that's going to be just fine. I'm slightly nervous. I do have more of this one, so we don't have to worry. I have an extra skein of Kurt, which is this color. But overall, I am really, really happy with the stripe order. I'm really happy with how things are going. Oh yeah, and I'll do these pockets at the very end because we'll see what I have left of the yarn. Maybe they just need to be you know, all gold on the inside from this angst color, or not angst, Kurt color. But we'll see. Anyways, I think that's it. I've rambled on long enough, and I hope you're enjoying. If you want to come follow me on Instagram, that's where you can see sort of the more in progress stories. I'm a stories person there. But overall, I'm really excited because I feel like I'm getting a huge amount of this done. It's been about a week and a half, maybe a little bit longer, since I cast on, and I've gotten a lot done, a lot more than I thought, because the weather's been a little bit sucky, but that's okay. That is exactly what cold weather and rainy days are for. Hope this is helpful. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.